Tu teléfono viejo o roto puede hacerte quedar mal.
Ah, genial.
Pero en Verizon puedes intercambiar cualquier teléfono viejo de nuestras mejores marcas. Aprovecha al máximo y llévate el increíble iPhone 16 Pro con una línea nueva en My Plan. Ahora en nuestros planes más bajos. Además, un iPad y un Apple Watch Series 10. Es como 3 regalos inesperados y los puedes obtener con cualquier plan. Visita tu tienda Verizon hoy. Se aplican términos adicionales. El Apple Watch y el iPad requieren un plan de servicio.
From ADT comes Trusted Neighbor, the new standard in home access. Through the ADT Plus app, easily grant and automate event-based or scheduled access for neighbors, friends, and helpers. Notify trusted individuals of events like alarms or packages, and set access windows for planned guests or even the dog walker without interrupting your day. Visit ADT.com. When every second counts, count on ADT. Requires ADT Complete Pro Monitoring Plan and compatible devices. Copyright 2025 ADT LLC. All rights reserved.
Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones. Me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. How's it going out there in heavy metal world? I hope it's going well. This is a lovely episode this week. I'm looking forward to doing this one because instead of an advert in the middle of the show, we're going to have a song. That's right, listeners, sit down, be quiet, close your eyes and take this in. Now, I'm joking. It's like being back at school again, isn't it? No, this is ScrollKeeper, a band from Houston, Texas, who reached out to me about a few weeks ago. They formed in 2016. They specialize in high-energy, anthemic, original material that is reminiscent of metal's halcyon days. The band has shared stages with Raven, Saxon, Voivod, Angra, Delin, Hammerfall, Dickon Schneider, Manila Road, Clovenhoof, and many others. Scorpio has toured across Texas to support of its 2020 LP Auto de Fe. The band's first single, Surrender, was selected for the Doomed and Stoned in Texas compilation, featuring, among others, Texas legends Dead Horse, Solitude Aeternus. SoulKeeper's latest album, Auto de Fe, is released by True Metal Records from Brazil and sold by Underground Power Records in the EU. In January 2022, Spotify added Auto de Fe to their best new thrash material playlist. Golden Core Records /ZYX Music featured ScrollKeeper on their Damned This Stuff Is Heavy Volume 2 compilation, and it sold worldwide. In January 23, the band signed with ZYX Music for its latest full release, Wetico. Beginning of 2024, ScrollKeeper welcomed Thomas Chacon, or Chasson, on drums. I've probably said that wrong. In August, ScrollKeeper released a new single titled Blinded by Fear. The band is currently touring Texas and neighboring states. I hope I read that correctly. I'm sure I did. Anywho, that's what the song will be at halftime. Instead of adverts, you're going to get ScrollKeeper's latest single, waiting for their new album to come out. And they will be on the show sometime in the coming few months. Anyway, back to normal programming. Yes, as I said, back to the show. So, we are talking about Thin Lizzy's final studio album, Thunder and Lightning. Now, people have said to me, why are you when I mentioned this to some friends I was doing it, why are you doing their last album and not one of their classic albums as the first album you've actually reviewed on the show? And I thought I'd like to do it because it's a good record of a band going out with a bang. It's certainly not their greatest record. It's certainly not the most memorable record. But it's the first record that I remember seeing on my brother's collection, the first record I remember listening to of theirs as a young man, before I got into them solidly. It has a real sort of new wave of British heavy metal album cover associated with the album, and I think that's what really sort of grabs me in a quieter way. Now, the band themselves, I probably don't need to give much introduction to Thin Lizzy. They are a foundation of the heavy rock / movement into heavy metal sound. An Irish singer, an Irish-based band, that formed in 1969, in a time when the country was in a lot of strife. It was a lot of racism, sadly, like there is now, but a lot of racism. And Phil Lynott, the bass player and vocalist and founder of the band, coming from a mixed race family, so mother being white Irish and his father being he's West Indian man. There wasn't a lot of that going on in that part of the world then, so he was quite a sort of a standout character, particularly at school, particularly on stage, and how his family coped with the kind of vile things that they would have coped with is a testament to them, and a testament to feel that he could create music and not feel there were barriers, and he still dived into his Irish roots with like whiskey in a jarro and all that sort of thing. Now, the original lineup is not on this album. A lot of them are, of course. You still have Phil Lynott on bass and vocals. You have Brian Downey on drums. You have Scott Gorham on guitar and backing vocals, and Darren Wharton on keyboards. But Snowy White took over from Eric Bell, who was the original guitarist. And then after Renegade, the previous album to this, he left under a bit of a cloud to be joined soon after by John Sykes. Now, he's an interesting character, John Sykes. He originally was in a band called Street Fighter, a new wave of British heavy metal band. He left them, that band, his own band, and he went to join Tigers of Pang Tang, which he recorded some of the best new wave of British heavy metal guitar licks of them all on albums like Crazy Night, Spellbound, and he also put 2 tracks on The Cage, one of the albums I have mentioned about on this program before. He's also played with bands like Def Leppard. He's played with 2 albums with Thin Lizzy, and he's just sort of one of those guitarists that, unlike Snowy White, he was more a rock guitarist, a much more heavier sound. He brought the sound from like the Tigers and his own sound right to the band, which sort of gave it a kick in the bum, to be honest, because Renegade, the album before that, had been a little bit light on its riffage, and so the latter albums of the Lizzy's career were a little bit, they weren't bad, but they weren't Black Rose, if you know what I mean. But it sort of had a real feel of Gary Moore being back again. A little less bluesy than Gary Moore, but he had that feel of Gary Moore being back again. And how he got into the band was an interesting story. So he left Tigers, and MCA, the record label, he was still under contract, and he had to release one more single. So the producer, his producer, Chris Saglinderis, who's a brilliant producer, has produced Judas Priest and Def Leppard, you name it, he's done it. Let me just have a look here. I did write that down. Yngwie Malmsteen, Tigers of Pang Tang, Gary Moore, Judas Priest, Anvil. Anyway, he's a great producer. So he talked to Phil, and Phil said, "Hey, yeah, I'll have a go on. Let me send me the album, send me the song." So they send John Sykes' song to Phil, and Phil, being the man he was, so yeah, okay, brilliant. I'll play with that. And of course, on there also came Brian Downey on drums, and they produced a song which is called "Please Don't Leave Me," released in 1982, and it also had Darren Wharton on keyboards as well. But that sort of chemistry brought them into the radar of Phil and the rest of the band, and they were so looking for a new guitarist that this was the way to go, particularly in 82, 83, when this was coming and being recorded. It sort of was a sound that was really big then, and I think that we'll talk about that when we get to the album in the second half, the actual review, but you'll find that it doesn't lose any of its Lizziness. It just adds a little bit more new wave of British heavy metalness, which is something, there's a delicious combination, is it not? Probably why it's one of my favourites on the album. He co-wrote the single, one of the singles off of it, okay, which is Cold Sweat, which is one of my favourite songs. And this album also contains one of my favourite songs of all time by theirs, which is The Holy War. Anyway, it was recorded and at in Willesden, would you believe, which is a studio that I used to go to, which is the Morgan Studios. I used to go and hang outside that with my brother. I have fond memories of waiting for bands to come out. They never came out when I was there. I'd get bored as a young man and just leave. But apparently my brother met The Who and all sorts of bands like Queen and things like that, because it was in Willesden, which was a short bus ride, maybe a 5-10 minute bus ride from near my house. So it wasn't a long way to go there. So we often would go on board Saturday and Sunday mornings. But then it was mixed at the Townhouse Studios in Shepherd's Bush, where it was mastered, where The Who has been done, the Queen, XTC, Peter Gabriel, Elton John, The Jam. Sadly, unfortunately, like both of those studios, they're now flats. And it's a sad story. I do have talked about this way back in a couple of years ago when I went back to London and saw that all my haunts and studios had all been brought down, and now people are living in them and have no idea what they were before. Anyway, that's a whole different ballgame, a different story. But so they have kept that Lizziness. They have got that heaviness. They've got that swagger, and they've got that Irishness and that rock and roll feel that Lizzy always had. It's a tremendous catalogue as a band, and of course, to say that they are influential in modern music is like saying that Paul McCartney was in the Beatles. It's a well-known fact. Do bears shit in the woods? Is the Pope Catholic? That kind of thing. You can't turn on listen to a song from sort of any time from sort of 79, even probably before then, through to like 84, 85, without some kind of Lizzy influence, some lick in there, some nod back to that brilliant band and its energy and its frontman had so much charisma. Sadly, we lost him in 1986, much to the loss of the world, and sadly to drugs, which is even worse. There's a statue to him in his hometown. His mother was still very, very proud of him, and his family were very proud of him. We're all very proud of him, of course we were. That's to say, if anyone is struggling with addiction of any kind, there are always places to reach out. There are always numbers to phone in your local country, in your local community. There are friends and family. Please, 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 don't suffer in silence. Reach out. The world doesn't need to lose more Phil Lynotts anymore. So let's try and get ourselves better, and hopefully you two somewhere, one of you out there, can create wonderful art and music, or just have a wonderful life in general. Anyway, Thunder and Lightning. It didn't do that well in the charts. It got a bit panned. Some of the reviews said it was the best of their 80s output. I'd probably agree. It certainly has an edge to it. It's quite an interesting album because it flows so well as an album, but it also has its flaws, of course. But it's an interesting album because the tracks on it, they feel like they're. I'll talk about this on the other side, but they don't feel sometimes that they're in the right order. But anyway, that's by the by. Okay, the album starts with Thunder and Lightning, the title track, which is the second single off the album. Then we have This Is the One. Then The Sun Goes Down, which is the third single, and then Holy War. And then we flip over and we get the second side, which is Cold Sweat, which was the first single. Someday She's Going to Hit Back, Baby Please Don't Go, Bad Habits, and Heart Attack. Now, this is a classic album. This is the vinyl that I have from my collection. This is not the special edition. I'm not going to talk about the extra bonus tracks. If you want that, you can listen to that. But luckily, on streaming platforms at the moment, you can stream the special edition and the original of the album, which is a rarity. I've talked about that before. But that's the title rundown. That's the album rundown. I said it feels a bit disjointed sometimes. I probably would have put Heart Attack somewhere else in the mix. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we get to the other side. Firstly, please do take a listen to ScrollKeeper's latest single, which came out 14th of August last year on an independent label. This is Blinded by Fear. That's Blinded by Fear from ScrollKeeper, the heavy metal band from Texas USA, who reached out to me, as I said at the beginning of the show. So please do sit down, have a listen to this, and take it away. ScrollKeeper and Blinded by Fear. Welcome back to part two of the show. I hope you enjoyed that brilliant interlude by ScrollKeeper, Blinded by Fear. Their single out now and it's available to hear on all good streaming platforms. Anyway, on to Thunder and Lightning, the final album by Thin Lizzy. Sadly, as I said, it's got that fantastic cover with the fist coming out of the studded fist coming out of the sort of like looks like shale or rock, and the lightning hitting a banner in the distance. It's quite a, a fantastic album of its time. And like I said before, people say, why don't you choose Black Rose or any of those others? But I personally want to play this one, listen to this one, and talk about this one because this is the album I first heard from them. Now, it opens up with Thunder and Lightning. Now, this straight off the bat is an absolute cracker of an opening track. It's exactly what the band had been missing for the last few years. This is definitely John's influence, I think. Here, there's a lot of speed. There's a lot of proto heavy metal, so early heavy metal here. There's a lot of heavy rock. There's a lot of amphetamine rock and roll. Is what I always think of Thin Lizzy. So that kind of, let's take a Chuck Berry riff or or an Elvis riff or one of those sort of rockabilly rock and roll sounds, and let's add sniff some amphetamines and go a million miles an hour. Very much what the punks were doing, if you think about it. It's really, really good, and the way that that Phil managed to keep up with the pace of the music, in the pace of his vocal expression, his vocal lines, is quite something for a man that was at that time struggling with a lot of things in his life. So it's a real call to arms for the last album from one of the life's greatest bands and one of the world's greatest bands. It's a real sort of, hey, here we are. As I said, it was released as the second single, and it really has single written all over it. The chorus is amazing. Like thunder and lightning, goddamn, so exciting. Hit you like a hammer, goddamn. It's just wonderful. And then, this sort of, about a minute and a half in, is this wonderful sort of fire alarm staccato guitar that's just either John or Scott just really, really giving it some rice, as my dear old grandfather would say. Give it some elbow, and he's really sort of leaning into it. It adds to the speed of this particular track, and I do love the way it's like, goddamn, thunder and lightning. He stood 6'6". He looked 2 miles wide. I was taking it easy till he took her outside. I was madder than hell and fit to burn. This guy would break a leg before now he's got to burn. Standing in the corner, giving him a thrill. You can keep your lover, honey, but he's got to pay the bill. That's just part of the lyric. It's obviously it's a song about spurned love and a man's girlfriend being hit on by another giant of a man, obviously. It's just, yeah. The place started rocking. It was Saturday night. I was dressed to kill. I was feeling all right in the middle of the night. I wasn't ready for a rumble, but the mood was right. When he got up to leave, I stood in his way. I said, love, that's the price you have to pay. In the doorway up against the wall, when they play a heavy record, then I'm gonna have a ball. We started to rumble and stumble. It is where we're rocking and rolling and tumbling. I fumbled and started to win. When the greater then wicked, then I hit him again. I hit him again and I couldn't hit him anymore. My head was all black and blue and my jaw was sore. It's so rebellious rock and roll, yeah. And it goes so well with the song. And it's such a, for a man of his age, he was in his, I'm going to say he was in his 30s then. I haven't looked at that exactly. How old? I think he was, 36 when he died, I think. He's writing songs like he's 16, about spurned love and rock and roll and leather jackets and switchblades and fighting in bars. It was Saturday night when heavy rock was born. Don't you love that? That last ending lyric. It's just wonderful. It's saying that rock and roll and heavy rock and heavy metal was born for Saturday nights, for partying, for energy and for expressing yourself. And I think it's just a brilliant opening track. Great single. And I think I've got it somewhere on the 12-inch. It is really, really a good way to open the album. And then we come into This Is the One. This is a real, like when we open the album with a completely newish kind of sound, or a sound we haven't had for some time from Lizzy with Thunder and Lightning. And then we move into This Is the One, which really to me is very much a Lizzy sound, particularly with Downey on the drums, the way he's hitting the cowbell and the hi-hats and the rhythmic usage is that the band does is when you hear this, if you were not to hear Phil Lynnett's vocals and you just heard the audio track, you'd know straight away that this was Thin Lizzy. All right, and again, it's a song about finding rock and roll. Yeah, I've got to find an occupation. I've got to keep myself employed. It's a bad situation. My brain's destroyed. I've got to find a new vocation. I feel it burning down inside. Such a low down abrasion. Inside it hurts my pride. It's about him finding rock and roll. Someday we will have one. We will have one. I feel it in my bones. This is the one. And I think that that he's saying this is, this is the album. This is the one that I'm really very proud of. I mean, it will be his last album, so I hope he was deep down proud of it. I know that there was a lot of problems making it. There was a lot of problems in his personal life and the personal lives of the band in general. So it was really good that they managed to get this one last cracking album out. It does. It really has a kind of a real I can't say it, Lizzy feel. It feels like Lizzy as it used to be, early doors Lizzy, that kind of real sort of moving music with like like open road window, a window down, hand on the side of the car, open stretches of high road in America. That kind of youthful exuberance that Lizzy really gave us as a audience. It just gave us that sort of. There was times for darkness with Lizzy. There's times for sadness, but a lot of the time with Lizzy, it was all about rock and roll and what the sort of power of the three chords and the power of the drums. And again, I think this is probably some of Downey's best drumming on this particular track. I said I really love the cowbell that's coming in the background. And the chorus, I hear it, I know it, I touch it, I feel it, I see it, I can feel it in my bones. This is the one, and the way, and this is actually, I think, definitely one of Lynnett's best vocals. His voice sounds so good here on this album. It's a real shame that this was the end. He had that wonderful gravelly sound that only Phil had. That real, he could go and do something really smooth, but he could also do something really heavy. He had a real sense of what it was to be rock and roll, and I know that he was very much a control freak with his music and his albums and his band, and but the greatest music sometimes comes with that much control. Maybe not being, it may have been harmful for him and the people around him, sadly, but it created great art. It's a great track. It doesn't hang around very long. It's only like 3.5-4 minutes, but it's a real Lizzy. So it's great to start the album with something that's felt fresh and different, and then move into something that sounds a little bit more Lizzy-like. And then we could have come into the third single, The Sun Goes Down. This is actually quite a quiet song. It's a nice sort of refreshing change from two fast heart pounders. This actually has on it what makes Phil Lynott such a great musician, his bass playing. I mean, people don't realise just how good a bass player he was. When a lot of musicians, when they sing and play bass, unless they're really in your face, like Geddy Lee or Chris Squire or even Sting to some extent, he's a quiet achiever. Is the wonderful Phil Lynott. He's playing. It's so good that it just becomes part of the music. He doesn't show off. He's not verbose as such. But on this track here, you can really hear it. He's obviously picking it, and it just sort of drives. It really drives well into the music. I think this is quite a interesting song. I think it's foreshadowing something quite sad, really. The sun goes down. There is a demon among us whose soul belongs in hell. Sent here to redeem us, she knows it all too well. He comes, he goes, he comes, he goes. She knows it all too well. But when it's all said and done, the sun goes down, the sun goes down. You know, it's sunset, sadly, on his life a bit years later after the release of this album. And I think it's quite a slow and sad, and it's by no means a ballad, and by no means is it a throwaway track. I think it's yes. I mean, I think it could be very personal to him, and she knows now she must deceive him. He knows it all too well. She comes and goes. She comes and goes. I mean, he had a very torturous personal life, and this could be wrapped around that. So it's quite a soul bearing track, and I say quite fortuitous, quite harbinger of bad things, unfortunately. But it's still, a great song. I don't think it's a great single. I probably wouldn't release it as a single. I think it's in the wrong area. I think it's in the wrong part of the album. I would have had it, as I said before, the order lineup. I think I would have had it further down, just because it's it's good to take you down a peg speed wise after the first two tracks, but it does sort of really put the skids on. It doesn't like go slowly. It stops you at a rather sort of dramatic halt. And then we get the closer of this side of the album's Holy War, and I've mentioned it before. I really love this song. I don't know what it is about this song. I remember hearing it as a kid and being just in awe of it, lyrically, but also it's just got this rhythm that just really holds me, and it also links really well with the imagery of the lyrics. It's that sort of clatter of drums at the beginning, dun 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 tat tat dun tat tat. That's sort of like again that wonderful clatter that Lizzy used to do in the 70s. That sort of I don't know, that kind of pub rock sound that they had that was a bigger sound than that, but that really used the drums. Downey's connection with Phil is so unique that he could do whatever he wants and it will fit really well into the track. And then the ascending and descending fantastic guitar part for the guitarist, where it's taking you up and bringing you back, taking you up and bringing you back in with the drums. Is Downey using electric drums here? There's a sort of real electric sense of a gate in there. I don't know if he is. I don't want to say he is, unless I'm wrong. And if anyone out there knows better than me, let me know. But there's that real kind of snary, hard, sort of early 80s drum sound that comes really well on this. And also does, this song this song for me could have been on Black Rose quite easily. It almost sounds like an outtake from that album, really. It has, for me, the best lyrical line on the album and the best vocal performance on the album by Phil, because it's a real Phil the way he does it. He has that kind of way of spitting out short bursts of lyric over the music to really enhance the song. And it says here, if you will adore me, bow before me and praise my name. If you place no God before me, then I will have yours. Oh, then all I have is yours to claim. And if God is in the heavens, and why did God let children die? If you don't ask these questions, there is no reasons why. It's wonderful. Obviously, he's talking about, it says the Holy War, so it's talking about religion versus religion and gods and angels and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you have to remember that Phil, I don't know whether he was a devout Catholic, but he certainly came from Ireland, very religious family. So I don't know whether he had deep faith. I'm not sure. But this has a real sort of biblical, epic kind of sound to it. And I think this should have been a single. I would have put this out instead of The Sun Goes Down. Really, I would have done, because it's not as fast as the others, but it has a real swagger to it, right? It may be controversial lyrically, maybe, I don't know. We are frightened of no one, and no one will win this war. This is the way, this is the law. Wonderful chorus, right? And again, you can imagine when you listen to it, you can hear Phil giving you that. This is the way. This is the law. You know, all the kingdoms and the thrones. Pause. Pause. All are yours if you bow before me and adore me. Pause. All this you can own. There's a pause. There are these that will go to heaven. It's just he doesn't belt the lyric out. It's not charging at it, right? But his bass, the drums, the two guitars, the keyboards, it just makes for a real piece of drama, and I really love it. And I just wish that this one is a more well-known track of theirs. And I'm sure there are fans of Lizzy out there listening to this now and go, yeah, I do love that song. And honestly, I'd buy the album for this and for the opening track on the second side, if I have to be honest. You know, and there's this really great wailing guitar in there that John's bringing. I'm sure it's John, and you know, who's bringing it to the. Scott is a wonderful wailer as well, but more of a rhythm guitarist. I'm sure I might be wrong. You might be shouting at your speaker right now and going, no, he's not. But they're both great guitarists. You can't really hear which one's which. This does sound more like a John kind of solo in there. But again, there's great lyrics here, like. There is no evil in salvation. There is no evil in all. There is evil in all of us. Just as Satan tempted Jesus, and Jesus slips and falls, he is a station on the cross now. He is dying to save us all. We are chosen. We are one. We are frightened of no one, and no one will win this war. This is the way. This is the law. Brilliant, just brilliant. And again, is it a foreshadowing of his life coming to an end? You know, it's feeling. You know, is he feeling the ravages of his lifestyles? You just don't know, do you? Right? But it is again, you know, a boy probably raised in a very religious household, living a very hedonistic lifestyle. It would be a interesting clash of your mind as a creator, as a performer, and as a human. You know, one side of you devoutly has this religious upbringing, and the other side of you, like little Satan on your shoulder, whispering in your ear, telling you to do bad things. It's a really great track, and that's the end of side one. And then you have to pick it up, take the needle off, turn it around, give it a wipe, put the needle back on, and we get on the other side of that. We get Cold Sweat. This is the first single off the album, and the single that John wrote with Phil, and it is a stone cold classic, as it says even in the lyric. You know, it opens with a great rock and roll soundtrack, some squealing pitch harmonics going on in the background, very, very apt for the time. It's a track about wasting and blowing all your money on a horse race, and the fear and the sweat and the terrifying thought that you could lose it all at the turn of a card. And it goes, I put my money in the suitcase, and there's a pause. As it heading for the big race, I felt a chill on my backbone as I hung up the telephone. And then it's that great chorus. It's a real, you know, you could imagine, you can picture it, can't you? Phil in his leather outfit and his big black shiny bass swaggering side to side, going, stone cold sober and stone cold sweat running down the back of my neck. It's a real fast turn of phrase, and it's really fun. It's this thing about this album. It's just pure rock and roll fun. To lose means trouble, to win pays double. And I got me a heavy bet, cold sweat. They say chances on the outside are looking very slim. I've been so lucky on the inside, I feel I'm going to win. So this is the lies that a betting, a sort of like someone who has a betting problem will tell themselves. You know, it's going to turn. I've got to win. It's going to come. I know it is. It's there. It's got to turn. My luck's got to change. And again, is this a metaphor? Am I reading too much into this? Is this a metaphor for what the band was going through? You know, are they fooling themselves that they can keep doing this? Is this the last chance, last turn of a coin, last flip of a coin, last turn of a card, to make themselves? I mean, they don't need to make money. This band were stellar, but just to see if they can keep going. I've got me a whole month's wages. I haven't seen them touch that much in ages. I might spend it in stages and move out to Las Vegas. Right, so it's like he's now saying instead of blowing it all on one horse, he might dabble it out on the cards and the wheel and the machines. But it's a really great piece of music. It really does give a background to the lyric of a man or woman obsessed with changing their lives the easy way. It's got a real 70s sound or swagger to it. Again, could be on one of the earlier albums, and it perfect as the opening single. Absolutely perfect as the opening single for this album. I couldn't think of a better single. It did relatively well. I mean, none of the singles did that well because it was at 82. It was a time when new wave was sort of sitting quite proudly on the charts. You had a lot of electronic music coming in with Human League and all that kind of stuff, and pop was really taking off. This was a sort of a throwback to that 70s sound that at the time when it was released, listeners of the band were probably in their late teens, early 20s. So that means that they were, they were listening to music in that they were sort of coming up through the 60s and 70s, right? So this is an older sound for the time, but it doesn't sound dated. It has moments where you go, this sounds like a late 70s heavy track by Lizzy, but that's the sort of thing they did. They had their sound. You're never going to get away from that. They weren't going to change it too much. I mean, they did on Thunder and Lightning, absolutely did, and they played around a little bit on Renegades, the previous album, but this is certainly a nod back to their old stuff with a little look at going forward as well. They went to see what was going to happen shortly after this album was released. And wow, what do we get next? We get a stonker of a track here. Someday She's Going to Hit Back. And it opens, when I was talking about, trying to fit into the time of, electronica and new wave, this thing has 30 odd seconds of operatic, skull crushing, mind fucking musical musical points. It's just you've got feedback coming in. You've got the keys. You've got the keys. Probably Brian on the drums. You've got Darren keying, like adding this amazing keys. The bass sounds like it's on a different planet. There's this sort of like swirls and sort of in the voidish kind of sound, really causing a real chaos. It's only for 30 seconds, but it's a real chaos. And then we get the lyric, and then suddenly, before the lyric, sorry, Brian just comes clattering in, straight in to the track. And this song is about the way a woman is treating him, or he's treated a woman. Clearly, as I said before, this is a very tortured and hurting human being, and he's creating this amazing track. This just it coming off of Cold Sweat. This is like, what? Where am I going from here? This is unbelievable, right? Women don't like it hurting her this way. Someday she's going to hit back. The woman don't like me in her own way. Someday she's going to hit back. Women don't like it treating her like this. Someday she's going to hit back. The woman she don't love is lonely. Someday she's going to hit back. Women don't like it begging on her knee. Someday she's going to hit back. Oh, please, please don't desert me. Someday she's going to hit back. So is that him saying, please don't desert me? Is it her saying, please don't desert me? Clearly it's a broken relationship. But the music behind it is not sad. The music behind it is almost like it's being freed from this situation. So is this a happiness? Is this a relief that this situation is over? I'm not quite sure. The keys here, the way that they've recorded Phil's vocal, that has a sort of echo on it, and the real swell of the organ, the keyboards in the background, and the clatter of the drums. It's not a guitar-heavy track. There's a guitar in it, but it's not a guitar-heavy track. This is very much an 80s sounding piece of music. So was this the direction that Lizzy might be going if they kept going in that period of time? Who knows? But this has a real modernist swell to it. It's completely different to the nod backs to influence on the first side of the album. This is a real. It's almost the first side is, hey, this is what we were, and then we start to turn to B-side 2, and you go, this is what we are going to be, and you get that with Someday She's Going to Hit Back, and it is, again, I reckon this would have made a fantastic single, because it has a real attack, a real memorable feel to it, whereas something like I said before, like The Sun Goes Down, is a little bit too. We have to do it, because Lizzy were known for doing some of the slow stuff, and we better do a slowish one. Okay, but personally, I might even have left it off the album if I have to be honest. Anyway, brilliant track. Again, not very long. It's 4 minutes, just under 4 minutes, but the textures that they put in it, that the level of detail in this song is something that makes this album a top album. I mean, it got a few 10 out of 10 reviews when it came out, this album, so it certainly wasn't completely panned by everyone. I think just it came out at the wrong time, and the past albums sort of hurt their reputation, if that's the right thing to say, really. And then we go into Please Baby Don't Go, or Baby Please Don't Go, sorry, which is almost like the complete opposite to the previous track, whereas it's an upbeat letter asking his girlfriend slash wife slash partner not to leave, but he's doing it in such a sort of rock and roll sense. It's a real sense of the old of the that sort of 70s, mid 70s, 72, 73 swagger that you got with some of the sort of bands like Sweet and things like that. That sort of, there's a glam rock side that they never were a glam rock band, but there's that kind of sort of glam rock feel to it. I tried to warn you, baby. I tried to tell you I was down. Oh yeah, baby, yeah. You wouldn't listen, baby. You wouldn't You would not help me when I was down. Oh no, oh. He tells her, doesn't anybody understand I love her? That girl, she holds my heart in her hands. Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby, please don't go. So he's just saying, like, in my clumsy way of reading that lyric, he's just saying, hey, look, you've got my heart in your hand. You have the power over me. Whereas the previous song, I think it was like, me, I have the power over you. You're going, right? Or you could say that it's a semi progressive album where conceptually, where the one before it was saying, she's saying I'm going, and then he's saying don't go. Like, it's obviously, he, as I said, he went through a lot of heartbreak, a lot of emotional problems, and a lot of drug problems, and this is a bleeding from the heart here. Even though it's rock and roll, it's bleeding from the heart. It says here, the young ones hold their hearts on this up in the skies and dance the night away. There is foolish, there is wise, there is anger in this tone. There is truth behind the lies, his heart has turned to stone. The way that Phil enunciates when he sings, that he has that sort of punch, 5-word lines, no more really than 5-word lines, because that's what he did. It was like a stab. Each line was a stab. It was the perfect length. It was like the perfect haiku, if you know what I mean. Like, sometimes a lot of these bands, a lot of lyricists overwrite for the music they were playing in, but this, he just sits, and it's so Lizzy. Please don't go, baby, please don't go. Just a lovely way to counterbalance the other one where she's leaving him. As I said, thinking back on it and looking at it, I'm still not quite sure. The amount of times I've listened to this album, these two songs do confuse me slightly when I sit down to think about them. But back to back, they make absolutely cracking songs, because I said you've got that weird progressive 80s synth monster that is someday she's going to hit back, and then you've got baby please don't go, which is like a homage to something like the Eagles would have done, maybe even if they were a bit heavier, if you know what I mean. There are not many sing-along tracks on this album, I have to admit to that. But this one here, Bad Habits, is a real sing-along track. Again, it sounds very 70s here with a modern production. It's got a real punkiness to it, which I haven't talked about before because I did come through the punk, explosion and survived it, and would have been influenced slightly by it. And it does have a real kind of, the way the punks took Jerry Lewis and Chuck 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 Berry, and they sort of bastardized them and sped them up and amphetamized them. This is what they're doing here, I feel, and it also has that very early first DNA of Lizzy. So we've gone back to some of the original kind of stuff again now, and it's just a real fun and sing along track. Again, it's sad concept. It's about seeing your girl with another man. I see you walking down the street with another man. God, you're really shocking. I see you walking down the street with another hand held in your stockings. Boys will be boys and girls will be trouble. And I'm the man of bad habits. Right? Which means he likes bad girls, naughty girls. He likes them to be a little bit troublesome, and he's not looking for the vicar's wife to settle down with. And then there's a great chorus sing along, bad habits, bad habits. You and I, we should meet. Yeah, you and me, we should get together. Me and you and I should meet in the rain and stormy weather. Bad habits. It's just brilliant track. It's good to have somewhere on the album a moment to be able to walk around your house, walk around work, walk down the street, whatever you're doing, sing along to something. And again, I think this would have made a cracking single. Hey, I wasn't the one to do, wasn't my idea, not me to worry about, but still, we all have our opinions. And I think that they could have moved this up slightly as well. Although, if you think about it, the 3 tracks back to back, as we said, Someday She's Gonna Hit Back, Baby Please Don't Go, and Bad Habits, all in the same kind of theme, love, lust, and loss of love and anguish. It's all the same kind of theme. Brilliant track, great guitar on it, wonderful rhythm section. The bass and drums hold well. Lynette's vocals are, as always, infectious and always something to smile about. But it is a great track, and again, I think it's only 4 minutes long. It's not hanging around, but it's got just great, a wonderful middle section, a real wonderful middle section with a real Irish kind of galloping guitar and real sort of echoes of the vocals, real drama, taking some from the end of side 1 with Holy War, taking a little bit back, taking a little bit from Cold Sweat, and that kind of, even a little bit from the beginning of Someday She's Going to Hit Back, and you put it into this sort of like playing around with the technologies that they had then, and it creates quite a dramatic track from a simple song about someone who has bad habits and likes dirty women. Street women, in fact. It has a real power and sort of drama to it. It's not just a sing-along throwaway track. It is the penultimate track on the album. Sadly, we have to come to the end. And we come to Heart Attack. All right, the very last track on the very last album by one of the greatest bands ever to grace the stage. And wow, what a way to end an album that will be your very last album, and you would pass away not long after this release. I mean, the lyric is portentous, to say the least. Okay, and it's quite sing along. Opens up, and he was very close to his mother and his father, very, very close indeed. And the lyric here says, "Mama, I'm dying of a heart attack." And then he's singing on chorus, heart attack, heart attack. But listen to these lyrics. "I love that girl, but she don't love me back. My girl, she tells me that we're breaking up, breaking up, breaking up. My heart can't handle the strain that it's shaking. She tried to tell me not so long ago I would not listen to, but her now I know. Papa, I'm drinking for an overload, overload, overload. There's a gun in my pocket, it's all ready to explode. Papa, I'm dying of an overdose, overdose, overdose. We just take a second there to realize quite, you know, what that means. I mean, the way that Phil passed away um, is quite sad, and it's in this lyric, right? It's in this lyric, and I never really thought about it. I'd sing along as a teenager, that lyric to the record that my brother would play. I never really thought about it. It was just a throwaway line, just a throwaway song, end of an album. It's not until you're much older and know the story of the man, the myth, and the legend that was Phil Lynott, one of the greatest frontmen of all of them, bar none. I won't have anyone arguing with me on that front. I actually feel quite teary thinking about it, to be perfectly honest. Yes, it's a upbeat track, and it's about losing love, and then can't go on, and what to do with your life after love is lost, and trying to tell your mum and dad that you can't take it anymore. But that lyric, overdose, 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 it just, yeah, sad, very, very sad. And not only that, but ironically, I think this is some of Phil's best bass playing on this track. It's really thunderous and direct, and it hooks in with Brian, as he always did for all those years, 69 to 82. Just unbelievable, really. That, and the guitar is thundering and rumbling behind them. The keys are there doing their bit, but overall, it's just a fantastic rock and roll song with a very sad portent attached to it. And the fact that he's talking to his mum and dad, that it hurts me even more thinking about that he's reaching out. You can hear he's reaching out here, right? He's reaching out lyrically to tell the world, hey, look, I'm really in a lot of trouble. People don't write lyrics like that just because it could be fun to write. He was a deeply artistic and spiritual man, and I think that he would be writing that lyric to say, hey, come, this is my letter slid under the bathroom door, the locked bathroom door, saying, help me. This is my phone call to a friend. This is my stepping on the ledge but knowing not to jump moment. And sadly, it didn't come to that. They didn't listen, and we don't have him anymore. So what a way to go out, and what a brilliant album to finish on. I really hope you enjoy it. Please do give it time. Please do not just think, oh, it's the last of the albums, why should I bother? I'm going to listen to all the classics. I might listen to the first 3 albums, and that's all I'm going to do, because you're going to miss out. Yes, Renegades was not a great album. It really wasn't. In fact, it's one of the poorest albums in their catalogue. But if you come and wait for this one, for moments like this may make you think differently about the album when you listen to it. It's an album of a man saying help. It's an album of a band saying, I think this is it. We might as well go out with a bang, boys. And they clearly did. Thanks, Thin Lizzy. Thanks, Phil. Thanks to the band. Scott, John, Darren, Brian, Ian, everyone, Snowy, everyone that was ever in this band, Gary. You don't realise how much this band means to a lot of us. And I said it before and I'll say it again, Live and Dangerous is the greatest live album ever made. Bar none. The only other one comes close to it is Live After Death. Outside of that, possibly, as I said before on a previous episode, Live at Leeds, The Who Live at Leeds, possibly. But it's definitely there, one of the greatest ever, and I have it on. I have several versions of it now, and I absolutely love it. That's another album I should do one day. But anyway, do go back, listen to the album, listen to the lyrics, really enjoy the music, firstly, and then don't let the dark side of the lyric and the realization of what happened spoil your love of this album, because it is a brilliant, brilliant album. that's enough for me this week. I hope you enjoyed the single that was on in the middle of the album, middle of the show. I don't do that often, but every now and again when they reach out, I thought, why not? It's better than paying you listening to shitty ads for 2 minutes. Yeah, it's a little bit longer, but hey, it's worth listening to. If you do like this and you've got this far, please like and subscribe on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Heavy Metal Tones. Patreon.com/Heavy Metal Tones. And for $2 a month, ad-free entertainment, no ads, and also some, behind the scenes videos, which I'm a bit slack on putting up recently. I've been very busy. But anyway, I hope that this cold I've got hasn't come across in the recording, because it feels like crap. Anyway, it's really horrible when you've got a cold and it's bright sunshine outside. It's just not really fair, is it? Bye for now. Keep safe. Keep enjoying the albums. Keep enjoying listening to the music. And go back and listen to as much Lizzy as you can, because you can never get enough of it. Bye for now.
This episode is sponsored by Boost Mobile.
It's James and Fuhad from Shits and Gigs podcast, and we're here to talk about Boost Mobile, the newest 5G network in the country.
With compelling deals for new lines, Boost Mobile makes it easy to switch today.
Boost Mobile's new network delivers customers the speed and service they'd expect from the big three, plus groundbreaking benefits you'd only get from a true challenger in the industry.
These include letting people try the network risk-free for 30 days and offering a $25 per month unlimited plan that's guaranteed to never go up in price. They have blazing fast 5G and plans for all the latest devices. Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store and find us online at boostmobile.com.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.